G'day and welcome to episode 3 of our practical camping series video. If you haven't watched episode 1 and 2, I highly recommend you do so. Links down in the description below. In this episode, we are going to be discussing all about bedding, which is one of the most important part of your camping setup, because without a good night's sleep, it could ruin your whole camping trip. There's quite a few options for bedding, and this is when it becomes quite unique. With bedding, there's always a balance between comfort and portability, so size and weight. Let's start by looking into the self-inflating mattress. Now, self-inflating mattresses have come a long way, really, especially the good quality ones nowadays. Even a thin mattress can give you quite a bit of comfort. With self-inflating mattresses, the main advantage, I guess, is the portability and the weight, because they're pretty, compact. However, if you go for a thicker mattress, it could be quite bulky, so just take note of that. In terms of comfort, as I said, the more expensive you go with self-inflating mattresses, the more comfort you get. The other advantage of a self-inflating mattress is the ease of setup, because all you need to do is open up a valve and leave it, and it will obviously suck in a bit of air, and through time it will just inflate itself. As tempting as it may seem, don't blow into the mattress or pillow to speed up the inflation process. This will introduce moisture into it. A disadvantage of the self-inflating mattress is that you are low on the ground, meaning it may be a bit harder for people to get in and out of bed. One thing you need to remember with any self-inflating equipment like mattress or a pillow, which we do have, is when you store them at home, it's highly recommended that you store them in their inflated state, not like this, all wrapped up. And the reason being is it prolongs the life of the actual foam or material inside the equipment. The next piece of bedding that we're going to look at is the stretcher bed. Now, the main advantage of a stretcher bed is that you are elevated from the ground. It's way easier to get in and out of bed for people who find that advantageous, so that's basically, the main advantage of it. And also, since you're elevated off the ground, then you got the airspace between you and the ground. So if you are camping in cold weather, that could greatly help you in terms of keeping yourself warm. Also, with that space between you and the ground, you can use that space as storage, so that'll be pretty handy too. Now, the disadvantages of the stretcher bed is that they're quite bulky and heavy. With stretcher beds, they normally have a hard surface, so you need some sort of foam, either a self-inflating mattress or even a good sleeping bag to give you that little bit of comfort. The other one is the bunk bed, which is quite popular for kids. They're quite similar to your stretcher beds, but obviously they're stacked on top of each other. The main disadvantage of bunk beds is the space in the tent, because it sits quite high. So especially with dome tents, which I've mentioned in my previous video, with the sides of the dome tent caving in, that could be an issue. Height-wise could be an issue. So you need to allocate, you need to have quite a bit of space in the tent to accommodate a bunk bed. And we've got your famous air beds or air mattresses. They're pretty cool because, to start with, they're quite cheap to buy. They come in a whole lot of sizes and shapes. There are some that come with built-in pumps, so you don't even have to worry about taking an air pump with you, and they are very comfortable. Now, the disadvantage of the air mattress, though, is that a lot of them, or actually most of them, are obviously low on the ground, so again, getting in and out of bed may be hard for some people. And in cold weather, you can get really cold in the air mattress. When you do use your air mattress in cold weather, you need to insulate yourself from the ground. There's a lot of ways you can do this. People put things like yoga mats like this, which we do have, or these sorts of reflective mats. Either put it underneath or on top of the air mattress. Different people do different things, but we found that just putting it on top of the air mattress works for us. So you've got your air mattress, and then we put a yoga mat, and then on top of that a normal sleeping bag, and it keeps us nice and warm during winter. The other thing you need to remember with air mattresses is obviously it requires a pump, so you need to have a pump with you. We've got one ourselves that runs off battery. It's just a rechargeable one. You know, you gotta make sure it's charged before you go. Take a car charger with you. But yeah, just one thing to remember, an additional item to have. Also, with a change of temperature during the day when it's warm and night when it's cold, the air mattress may lose a bit of air, so you may need to top it up with your air pump before you go to bed. Also, with your air beds, obviously they're susceptible to being punctured. Normally, a good quality one like this would come with a repair patch, so make sure you've got, you know, a few of those on hand, so if you do get a puncture you can repair it while you're out camping. Also, if you're going to go to remote places or going to be away from a town for long periods of time, it may be a good idea to bring a manual hand pump as a backup to your electric pump just in case it breaks. And so we jump into your sleeping bags. With your sleeping bags, you just need to match the temperature rating on the bag with obviously the actual temperature where you plan to go camping. If you've matched it properly and you buy a good quality sleeping bag, then you don't even have to worry about the clothing while you're inside the bag. You'll be nice and warm. Now, if you happen to be in a campsite and the temperature is way lower than the rating of your sleeping bag, then yes, you need to layer up that clothing to keep up with that cold. When going camping in cooler weather, you need to think beyond just the comfort. You need to think about ways to keep you warm in your bedding. For example, when you pick your sleeping bag, ideally you would want to have the smallest that you can fit your body into. The reason being is that you want the least airspace within the bag. You might have seen those mummy sleeping bags, and you notice that they use it mainly in, you know, snow, really cold conditions. Large sleeping bags can be tied to maximize body heat, especially for kids. One really effective way of keeping you warm in your sleeping bag is to use hot water bottles. Take one for each person and fill it up with hot water, obviously, before you go to bed. Chuck it in your bag half an hour before you go to bed. It will keep it nice and warm. You jump in, it's nice and toasty, and it will keep you warm for, you know, quite a few hours or even more. Alternatively, you can use hand warmers in place of hot water bottles. And the obvious is layering with your clothing and having good quality clothing. You want your thermals and then, you know, your different layers on top of it. When sleeping in cold weather, you gotta avoid sleeping directly on the ground without any sort of insulation. So it's either you elevate yourself and have some airspace between yourself and the ground, or you use some sort of insulation like these sorts of mats. It's very important to have a good beanie and thick socks. A lot of your body heat escapes through your head, and the moment you cover it up, it contains that heat, and you'll be amazed how much warmer it becomes just by putting a good beanie. So don't forget your beanie and don't forget your socks. In terms of material for your clothing, then obviously wool is probably the best. And you've got things like your fleece, which is a cheaper option. So that concludes episode 3 of our practical camping video. I hope it helped you decide as to which sleeping option is best suitable for you. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video.